She said we were soulmates, then sent my proposal video to a group chat with the caption, "Oh, I used to believe in soulmates." I mean, really believe. Not just in the romantic comedy kind of way, but in that deep, mystical, fated connection sort of way. The kind where two people are somehow written into each other's lives before they're even born. I believed that because she did. Emily. She made me believe. From the moment we met, her eyes, her laugh, the way she spoke about books and the universe and past lives, I was drawn in. She said things like, "I feel like I already know you," on our first date. She said my energy was calming, that I made her feel like she was home. I wasn't used to hearing things like that. I wasn't used to being seen like that. I didn't know it then, but I was falling into something way deeper than love. I was falling into the illusion of being understood. We met at a small used bookstore downtown. I'd gone in for a coffee and left with a copy of The Alchemist and her phone number written on a post-it note inside the front cover. She'd accidentally taken the coffee I ordered, and when we realized the mistake, she laughed and offered to trade drinks. I told her she could keep it if she'd let me take her out. That was 4 years ago. 4 years of shared playlists, sunrises, late-night deep talks, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else, and an entire wall in our apartment filled with Polaroids. 4 years of holding her while she cried over her job, while I lost my mom, while we tried to make a long-distance period work. She always said we were stronger than most, that we were rooted in something ancient. And maybe that's why it hurts so much now. Because I didn't just lose a girlfriend. I lost the story I told myself about us. We used to talk about marriage as a concept, always dancing around the when, but she'd joke that if I ever proposed, she wanted it to be something true to us, not cheesy, something that showed I listened. So I listened. For months, I planned everything. I chose the same forest trail where we first said, "I love you." I hired a videographer friend to hide behind the trees and capture it from a distance. I even found a local musician who played acoustic versions of her favorite songs and got him to record a few tracks for the background. I spent 2 weeks writing a speech. Not just, "Will you marry me?" but why I wanted to, what she meant to me, who I became because of her. I practiced it until I could recite it without shaking. She'd been feeling down that week, stressed from work, and I wanted to lift her out of that heaviness and remind her that we were still magic, that even the real world couldn't dull what we had. When the day came, she wore that burgundy sweater I loved, the one with the small hole in the sleeve she never fixed because she said it had character. We walked the trail, the air crisp with late autumn chill. She had no idea. I guided her to the clearing and turned her around. That's when she saw the candles, the lights, the speaker quietly playing our song. She covered her mouth and said, "What is this? Already tearing up?" And then I knelt. She gasped. Her eyes filled. I spoke every word I had practiced, and she stood still, silent, her breath catching with each sentence. When I finally said, "Will you marry me?" she nodded and whispered, "Yes, of course, yes." We kissed. She hugged me tight, whispered something about feeling like her heart was exploding. She laughed and cried at the same time. My friend got the footage. It was beautiful. I sent her the video privately that night. She watched it with me again, curled into my side and said, "It's perfect. You're perfect." 2 days later, I was at work when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jason, my best friend since high school. "Hey man, you might want to see this." Attached was a screenshot from a group chat. The video of my proposal was in it. The same one I sent her, only this time above the video she'd written, "LOL. He actually thought I'd cry." I stared at my screen for what felt like forever. My stomach twisted. My hands went cold. The same moment that felt like the peak of my life was now being laughed at. By her. In a group chat full of her friends. Jason followed up with, "Dude, I'm sorry. Someone in there knows my girlfriend and thought you deserved to know." I didn't know what to think. Maybe it was fake. Maybe someone edited it. Maybe it was an old video. Maybe she didn't mean it like that. I wanted to believe there was some explanation. Something that made it all okay. But more screenshots came. Messages like, "He actually wrote a speech. I almost lost it when he said, 'You're my home.' OMG, who says that? He's cute though. Too bad he's so clingy, LOL. Bet she says yes just for the ring." And from her, it was like watching a Nicholas Sparks movie but without the hot guy El Mao. I felt my chest caving in. My proposal, our moment, was a meme to them. To her. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I just sat on the couch in our living room, phone in hand, staring at that group chat screenshot. Over and over. Reading it until the words blurred. Until I felt physically sick. I tried telling myself it didn't mean what it looked like. Maybe she was trying to be ironic? Maybe one of her friends pressured her into making a joke? Maybe, but then came more screenshots. Different angles, different chats. Apparently, she had forwarded the video to multiple group chats. One of her friends, a mutual of Jason's girlfriend, had been shocked by it and passed it along. I guess not everyone in Emily's life thought this was funny. In another chat, someone said, "You better be careful, girl. He looks like he actually loves you." And she replied, "I know. That's the problem." I just sat there, letting those words settle in, letting the truth carve its way through everything I believed about us. She came home that night around 11, said she was at Emma's house for wine night. She looked relaxed, happy even. I could barely speak. I asked her to sit down. She looked at me sideways. "What's going on?" I held up my phone. "Want to explain this?" She took it from me, stared at the screen. Didn't say anything at first. Her jaw clenched. She slowly handed it back and said, "Who sent you that?" I blinked. "That's what you care about? Who sent it?" She crossed her arms and exhaled sharply. "It was just a joke. We were messing around. You sent our proposal video to your friends with LOL in the caption." Her face twisted with irritation. "Why are you making this such a big deal?" My voice cracked. "Because it was a big deal, Emily. It was the biggest moment of my life. I spent months planning it. I gave you my heart and you turned it into a group chat punchline." She rolled her eyes. "You're being so dramatic," I laughed. "Not because it was funny, because it was unreal. Do you even realize what you did?" "Okay," she snapped. "I didn't think you'd be so sensitive about it. I didn't mean to hurt you." "That's your defense? You didn't mean to humiliate me?" She paused. Her eyes darted to the floor. Then she muttered, "I didn't ask you to propose, Daniel." The silence after that sentence felt like a cliff collapsing. I stepped back, stunned. "What? I mean, I said yes because I didn't want to embarrass you. You looked so sincere. I figured I'd deal with it later." I stared at her like I was seeing a stranger for the first time. "You said we were soulmates," she shrugged. "It was nice to believe that for a while. You don't mean any of it, do you?" She didn't answer. I felt like my skin was too tight for my body. I felt like screaming. But I didn't. I couldn't even cry. I just felt hollow. "I need you to leave," I said. She blinked. "What? Go stay with Emma or whoever else you were drinking wine with. I need you out of here tonight." "You're being insane." "No, Emily. You were cruel. And now I'm done." She looked genuinely surprised, as if she hadn't expected consequences. As if all of this was just a little misunderstanding and I should be more rational. "Fine," she snapped. "You want space? Take all the space in the world." She packed a bag angrily, muttering things under her breath the whole time. As she left, she looked at me like I was the one who had betrayed her. I waited until I heard the front door close before I finally let myself fall apart. I sat down on the edge of the bed, put my head in my hands, and sobbed. It felt like the death of something sacred. The next day, I got more messages. One of Emily's old college friends, someone I barely knew, messaged me on Instagram. "Hey, I'm so sorry this happened to you. She's been like this for a while. She acts one way in relationships and a completely different way behind the scenes. You're not the first, but you're probably the last to propose." That sentence sat with me for a long time. I went back and looked through old texts, photos, videos, replayed moments in my mind. Were there signs I missed? Had I imagined the sincerity in her eyes when she said she loved me? Was it all a performance? Or worse, had I just wanted it so badly that I ignored the truth? I remembered times she'd laughed at other people's relationships, called one friend's fiancé boring and desperate, said another friend was only getting married because she needed a distraction. She always seemed so romantic when it came to us, though. Or maybe I just thought she was. In the days that followed, I canceled everything. The engagement post we were going to make never happened. The dinner reservations to celebrate with her parents? Canceled. I called them and told them bluntly, there won't be a wedding. They didn't ask why. I think they knew. Emily's mom messaged me separately and said, "I'm sorry for how this turned out. I wish things had been different." That hit harder than I expected. I boxed up everything. Her books, her sweaters, the framed pictures, the notes she used to leave in my lunch bag. All of it. I put it in a bin by the door and texted her to pick it up whenever. She never came. She just ghosted me completely. Blocked me on everything 2 weeks later. Told mutual friends I overreacted and spiraled over nothing. Said I made her out to be a villain for no reason. Some of our friends believed her, but the ones who mattered knew the truth. The days after she left all blurred together. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way people expect you to be after something like that. It was more like numbness. A constant quiet ache in my chest. I'd go to pour 2 cups of coffee in the morning and remember there was no one to hand the second one to. I'd hear a song she loved and instinctively reach for my phone to text her about it. then stopped mid-motion. I deleted the proposal video off my phone, then immediately regretted it and dug it out of the recently deleted folder. Not because I wanted to watch it, but because erasing it felt like pretending it never happened. And it did happen. That moment was real, for me anyway. It was hard to explain to people. Some friends didn't know what to say. A few tried the usual. Everything happens for a reason. Or, better to find out now than after the wedding. One guy even said, "You dodged a bullet." None of it helped. I didn't want to hear that I was lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt stupid. Embarrassed. Like I'd been tricked into starring in a rom-com that turned into a parody halfway through the script. Jason checked on me almost every day. He brought beer and silence when I needed it. He didn't push me to talk, didn't try to fix anything. Just sat with me. Watched dumb action movies. Kept me grounded. A week later, I finally posted something on social media. Not about her. Not about the proposal. Just a photo of my dog on the couch and the caption, "Some things stay loyal." People read between the lines. My DMs filled up. Some were kind. Some were nosy. Some were from her friends trying to defend her. One message stood out. From a girl named Leah. Someone Emily used to be close to, but they hadn't spoken in over a year. I don't know if this is inappropriate, but I just want to say I'm sorry. She did the same thing to someone else a couple years ago. Not exactly the same, but close. There's a pattern, and you didn't deserve to be caught in it. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. It was around then that I started noticing how people's tone shifted. At first, they treated me like the heartbroken victim. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, the narrative began to turn. I heard someone say, "Well, she did say yes. Maybe he just took things too seriously." Another asked, "Didn't he kind of pressure her with that public proposal thing?" Public? It was just us. The camera was hidden. It wasn't some viral stunt. It wasn't about attention. It was for her. But I realized that once your story leaves your mouth, people twist it however they want. I went to her Instagram once. Just once. She had archived almost every photo of us. All that remained was one old group picture where I wasn't even tagged. She'd posted a story the day after I asked her to leave. Wine glasses clinking. The caption, "Free again, wine glasses clinking." The caption, "Free again." It made my blood run cold. I wasn't mourning a breakup. I was grieving a death. The death of the version of her I believed in. The one who whispered late at night that she'd never leave me. The one who said we were something rare, something cosmic. That version was gone. Or maybe she never existed. I stopped eating properly. Stopped working out. Barely checked in at work. I'd show up, do the bare minimum, go home, and sit in the dark. I couldn't even tell if I was depressed or just emptied. Then, one night, I got a call from her mother. It was weird. We hadn't spoken since the day I told them the wedding was off. She said softly, "I know this is probably the last thing you want, but I felt like I owed you something." I didn't know what to say. She filled the silence. She's always been like this. When she was a teenager, she'd pull these stunts with boys. Lure them in with all that poetic soulmate talk, make them feel special, and then flip the switch. Like it gave her some sense of control. I closed my eyes, clutching the phone tightly. She told us what happened, but not the whole story. Said you were overbearing. That you couldn't take a joke. That you embarrassed her. I swallowed hard. But when I saw the video, the real one, the full thing, Daniel, that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I felt tears rising, unexpected and raw. I just wanted to tell you, you're not crazy. You didn't imagine it. You did something good, and someone chose to mock it. That says more about her than it ever will about you. I whispered, "Thank you." And she hung up. I sat there holding the phone against my chest for a long time. Maybe she wasn't telling me anything new. Maybe I already knew it. But hearing someone else say it, that helped. That pulled me out of the water just enough to breathe again. I started going for walks in the evening, just around the block at first. I'd take my dog, listen to music, sometimes nothing at all. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to move. One night, I walked past a couple holding hands on a bench. They were laughing about something. The girl rested her head on his shoulder, and he kissed the top of hers. I almost looked away. But then I felt something strange. I didn't feel jealous. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt quiet. And in that quiet, I understood something. What Emily and I had, it was real. To me, it was honest and open and vulnerable. I gave her the truest version of myself. And yes, she rejected it. She laughed at it. But that didn't make my love any less real. That didn't make me a fool. It made her a liar. I didn't set out to heal. I wasn't lighting sage or writing affirmations or journaling about forgiveness. I was just trying to exist without feeling like a punchline. But somehow the healing began anyway. Maybe it started with the silence. There were no more texts from her. No more surprise messages from mutual friends. Her name stopped popping up on my phone. That used to terrify me, her absence. Now it started to feel like peace. I deleted the voice memos I'd made for her. Little things I'd recorded during our time together. Her singing off-key in the kitchen. Her laughing in the car. Her whispering, "I love you," when she thought I was asleep. Gone. It felt like clearing out ghosts. Then I did something I hadn't expected. I unblocked her. Not because I wanted to talk. I just wanted to see, for myself, how little I mattered to her now. I checked her profile. It was public again. She'd dyed her hair. Shorter now. Brighter. Every post was a curated montage of freedom. Beach trips, bar selfies, new faces, unfamiliar places. She captioned one photo, "Soft life season," and another, "Romanticize your life even when it's chaotic." Nothing about the engagement. No mention of me. I wasn't just erased. I was never there. That moment didn't break me, though. It made me realize I was finally over the illusion. The spell had lifted. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want her back. I just wanted my dignity back. My peace. And strangely, I started feeling more connected to the world again. I reconnected with old friends. People I hadn't seen in years because I was always prioritizing our relationship. I even went to a small housewarming party Jason invited me to. I nearly bailed last minute, but something in me said, just try. It was awkward at first. The usual questions. Where's Emily? Weren't you guys engaged? What happened? I didn't go into details. I just said, we're not together anymore. A few people nodded, surprised but respectful. One guy, drunk and tactless, said, man, she was hot though. Bet she's already moved on. Jason pulled him aside later and told him to shut up. I didn't even flinch. Progress. At the party, I met someone named Chloe. We talked for an hour straight about movies, then books, then some dumb theory about why pizza tastes better at 2 a.m. We didn't exchange numbers. It wasn't that kind of moment, but it reminded me that connection was still possible, that I wasn't broken beyond repair. A few weeks later, I bumped into one of Emily's friends at a bookstore, a girl named Renee. She looked nervous when she saw me. Daniel, she said, shifting her weight from foot to foot. I didn't expect to see you here. Hey, I said, polite but guarded. I just wanted to say, I wasn't in those chats, but I saw them. I laughed too at first, not because of you, because I thought it was just harmless teasing. I stayed quiet. But after everything came out, I felt sick. It was cruel, and I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say. I didn't owe her forgiveness, but I appreciated the courage. She continued. I think she was trying to sabotage it. The engagement. You were getting too real, too serious. She doesn't like things that feel permanent. That sounded like Emily. Always chasing the next spark. Always terrified of stillness. Before Renee left, she said, you deserve someone who doesn't joke about your heart behind your back. That line stuck with me. I wrote it down later. Not because I needed to remember it, but because I never wanted to forget how it felt to hear someone say it out loud. At some point, I deleted the proposal video for good. No ceremony. No emotional breakdown. Just right-click greater than delete greater than confirm. Gone. That part of my life was over. But I wasn't. For the first time in months, I cleaned the apartment not because it reminded me of her, but because it was mine. I bought new curtains, new mugs, swapped out the framed Polaroids on the wall with landscapes I took on solo walks. My home started to look like someone lived there, not just someone used to live with someone else there. The night I noticed that, I sat on the couch, lit a candle, poured myself a drink, and whispered out loud, I think I'm okay. And I wasn't lying. I still had wounds, but they weren't open anymore. They were healing. Quietly, slowly, but healing. One night, I got a text from an unknown number. No name. Just a single message. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. It could have been her. Probably was. But I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't holding on to it anymore. Whatever she was sorry for, she could keep it. It belonged to her, not me. Spring came fast that year. I didn't even notice the shift in season until one day I stepped outside and realized I wasn't cold anymore. The air was warm, soft around the edges. The kind of day that makes you want to breathe deeper. It had been 4 months since Emily left. By now, most people had stopped asking about her. The ones who cared knew. The ones who didn't had moved on to other gossip. I liked it that way. I liked being forgotten for a while. I'd started therapy a few weeks earlier, not because I was spiraling, but because I wanted to understand how I got there in the first place. Why I ignored the red flags. Why I clung so hard to something that, deep down, I think I knew wasn't whole. My therapist asked, What would you have needed from her to feel safe? And I realized I never did feel safe. Not really. I was always earning it, always convincing her I was enough, always working to hold her attention, to anchor her, to match the intensity she projected. It hit me like a freight train. Love shouldn't feel like a sales pitch. Around the same time, Jason invited me on a weekend trip to the mountains with a few other friends. I almost said no, but something in me said yes. It was the best decision I'd made in months. No drama, no deep conversations, just cold beer, hiking trails, card games, dumb jokes around a fire. I laughed so hard that first night I actually choked on marshmallow. One of the guys patted me on the back and said, "Dude, you've got a dark sense of humor." I like it. I forgot how good it felt to just exist without performing. When we came back, I felt different, lighter, like I'd left a version of myself up on that mountain. And that's when it happened. I ran into Emily. Of all places, it was at the local farmer's market on a Sunday morning. She was alone, holding a reusable tote bag and wearing sunglasses. I recognized her walk before her face, that sharp, confident stride like the world owed her space. She saw me before I saw her. We made eye contact, and she smiled. Not a cruel smile, not smug, just polite, civil, as if we were old classmates running into each other after college. I nodded. Didn't stop walking, but she turned and said, "Hey, Daniel." I paused. Not because I wanted to, because my body betrayed me and froze for a second. I turned around slowly. "Hey," she looked me over like she was surprised I wasn't a wreck. "You look good." "Thanks." Silence stretched between us. "I never heard back from you," she said. I texted. "I saw it." Another pause. She shifted her weight, adjusted the strap on her bag. I didn't mean for things to end the way they did. I just stared at her. I wanted to ask, "How did you expect it to end?" But I didn't, she continued. I was in a weird place. I felt trapped. "You were always so certain." I nodded slowly. "I was certain. About you. About us." "I know," she said quietly. "And I think that scared me." I almost laughed. Scared her? That I loved her too much? That I wanted to build a life with her? I didn't say any of that. Instead, I asked, "Why send the video to your friends?" She looked down. I thought, I don't know. Maybe I wanted someone to shake me out of it, to tell me I wasn't crazy for not wanting it. "So you humiliated me instead?" Her eyes flicked up. For the first time, she looked ashamed. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I really am." I nodded. "I know you are." Not, "It's okay." Not, "I forgive you." Just, "I know." Because that's all there was left to say. We stood there for another second, and then I turned to leave. As I walked away, she called out, "You were the best thing that ever happened to me." I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. But for the first time, I believed it. Not because she said it, but because I knew it was true. I walked home in the sun, my hands empty, but my heart peaceful. Later that night, I wrote something in my notes app. Something I wanted to remember if I ever found myself in that place again. Real love doesn't humiliate you. It doesn't hide you. It doesn't turn your joy into a punchline. If someone can laugh at your most vulnerable moment, they never deserve to be in it. I screenshotted that and made it my lock screen. Not because I needed the reminder, because I earned it. I didn't tell anyone about running into Emily. Not Jason, not my therapist, not my friends. I didn't need to. There was nothing to unpack. No rehashing required. It was just a moment that came and went, like the last wave in a storm before the ocean goes calm. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Not because she was sorry, not because she said I was the best thing that ever happened to her, but because I finally realized I didn't need her validation. I didn't need her to explain herself or grovel or make me feel better about how things ended. The peace didn't come from her. It came from the fact that I was still standing. I'd been cracked open, humiliated, gutted, and somehow I was still here. Stronger, wiser, softer in all the right places and harder in all the ones that needed a little armor. The next few weeks moved fast. I got promoted at work. Nothing major, but enough to remind me that I had a life outside all of this. I started cooking again. Real meals, not just takeout or toast. I joined a local trivia team on Wednesday nights and got embarrassingly competitive about it. And then, one day, I opened my inbox and found a message that made me pause. It was from the videographer who had filmed the proposal, the one I'd hired to hide in the trees that day. He hadn't reached out since everything went down, and I'd figured he just felt awkward. The subject line read, "Hey man, I kept something. You should see it." Inside was a download link. I hesitated. Part of me was terrified it was just another copy of the proposal video I was trying to forget. But I clicked. It wasn't the proposal. It was the moments before. Clips he'd stitched together of us walking through the woods that day, me nervously wiping my palms on my jeans, her laughing about how many bugs there were, me adjusting the speaker volume when she wasn't looking, her spinning in a patch of sunlight, eyes closed. There was no dialogue, just soft piano music layered underneath. The way he'd edited it made it feel like something sacred, something gentle. I watched the whole thing in silence. When it ended, I didn't cry. I just smiled. Because that version of me, that man in the video, he deserved better. And he got it. He got me. He got out. Later that night, I took my old ring box, the one I'd kept in a drawer out of avoidance, and finally opened it again. The ring was still there, untouched. Simple, classic, exactly what she had said she wanted. I held it in my hand for a long time. Then I took it to a jeweler the next day and sold it. Not out of anger. Just closure. I used the money to book a trip. Nothing big. Just a solo weekend getaway to a quiet coastal town a few hours away. I stayed in a tiny rental house with creaky floors and ocean views. I walked barefoot on the beach in the morning, let the salt wind sting my face, sat in coffee shops with my notebook open, writing things I hadn't written in years. On my last night there, I met a woman named Tessa. She was reading The Alchemist, the same book I'd bought the day I met Emily. We talked for a while. She was warm, curious, asked real questions, listened without interrupting. We didn't exchange numbers either, but I left that conversation with something better than hope. I left with openness. And maybe that's all I ever needed. It's been almost a year now. Sometimes I still think about that day in the woods, about the candles, the speech. The moment she said yes, it no longer feels like betrayal. It feels like a chapter, a necessary one. Because I finally understand the difference between someone saying you're their soulmate and someone actually treating you like one. Emily gave me a story, but I gave myself a future. And if you're reading this because you're in that in-between place, the heartbroken limbo where you're trying to understand how someone you loved could laugh at your sincerity, let me tell you something. You didn't lose. You loved without holding back. You tried. You showed up with your whole heart. You wrote the speech. You knelt down. You believed. That's not weakness. That's strength most people will never have the guts to show. One day, someone will meet you and not just see all of that, but cherish it. Until then, cherish it yourself. Because if you can stand back up after having your most vulnerable moment turned into a joke, then you're already more powerful than the people who laugh at love. And somewhere down the line, when you're holding someone's hand who actually deserves to be in that moment with you, you'll be grateful that the wrong person said yes, because they cleared the way for someone who means it. And this time, you won't need a speech. You'll just know.